real quickly, we're not connected with the School of Performing Arts. Clayton Valley's not connected to them, neither is the Tech Academy. The Tech Academy is not connected to Clayton Valley Charter High School. Separate 501c3, separate board, separate executive director, separate funds. There's no mingling of funds or anything like that.
Okay, that's right now. Do you plan on connecting later?
Do not plan on that at all. Real happy about the Tech Academy has gotten their own, line of credit, thank you. Its own line of credit for startup. They've also applied for the state startup grant, which looks very good. But even if they don't get the startup grant, they're going to be very financially solvent with the line of credit they just gotten from the bank. So they're not dependent upon it.
Thank you for answering my first question. Second question is, will there be anything in the way of an interlocking directory between the schools where some directors from each school become part of another directory, interlocking so they influence each other, trade with each other, do favors for each other?
Well, I do see there being a partnership amongst schools of sharing best practices, not a interlocking of obligation or anything like that. It's what a lot of schools already do. They share best practices. So I'm into that. I would love to share best practices with Deer Valley, Concord High, and anybody else, because my ultimate goal is to serve kids, not to serve a school. I think that our whole mission should be about helping kids. And so, should there be a partnership of all the charter schools in Contra Costa County? Sure, there ought to be their own getting together and sharing best practices, having summer professional development together. I think that would be outstanding. And I would love it if regular high schools or middle schools would come too, come also. So it's not about this partnership with nobody else. We're applying for a grant from a major funder, high-tech funding group, and they have a group of that collaborate together.
And among the three schools, as I mentioned, the new Tech Academy, the Clayton Valley Charter School, and the Performing Arts School, right now there is no interlocking directory, and there's no plans.
No, if you mean by we're going to form and become one entity, not at all.
No, you couldn't have necessarily. You know how an interlocking directory works in Congress. Let's say, for instance, that there are 6 board of directors.
Oh, board of directors? No. There's not going to be a common board of directors or anything like that. They're their own boards, their own budgets, their own personnel. I don't foresee them ever doing anything other than that.
There's not going to be a common board of directors, but there's no interlocking directory, which is different than a common board of directors.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Madam Chair, I've got a question for Mr. Lynn, just for clarification purposes. Now, we recently looked at some of the CAPS results, especially when you look at percent. You talked about facts, not in terms of what individuals, suppositions and such, and other statements made by individuals about the quality or success from standardized testing standpoint of Clayton Valley. Let me just clarify a couple of things that you had mentioned. Number one, you said that there were 500 to 600 individuals on the waiting list. Is that correct?
Yeah, last year 600.
600 on the waiting list. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
All right. In addition, now, over the last, I'm looking at a report from the county, state, and CAPS results over the last 2 years, percent meeting or exceeding standards. What is Clayton Valley Charter High School percentage? I know, for example, I'll look at the, we're looking at a 5% growth in the county. For example, the DLA in California is 49%, we're 44%. So what are your percentages?
73% proficient or advanced in English. Yeah.
73%.
Yes.
Very much. One other question. These are facts. No supposition, pure facts. math, very important. Math in terms of percent meeting or exceeding math by, this take this for the 11th grade, for example. 11th graders. County, we're at 41%, state's 37%. What's Clayton Valley?
52%. We
All right.
jumped 13% last year.
All right, that's that. All right, no further questions. Thank you very much.
Sure. Is it on now? Oh, good. I always like to look at budgets. So my question is, looking at your budget, I always look at startup funds and how that's gonna work, because technology is very expensive. And so I see you have $6.6 million on startup, and you've got revenue over here, total revenue. Now, let me see. Yeah, the total revenue was like 270. So I was a little concerned how we're gonna get the 6.6. Is that gonna be the loan?
Nick Drivers, our finance department for our back office.
Okay.
Good evening, Nick Driver with CSMC, partnering with Tech Academy. And answer your question, trustee, we know that cash flow is always a huge issue for startup charter schools. So what we do, because we can't make up money that arrives in the startup year, it has to be guaranteed money. It has to arrive in that startup year in order to be usable in the startup year. So we don't have those guarantees other than the loan that Mr. Linzey talked about. So what we do is we push a lot of the startup costs into year one. If you think about a school that's starting, the fiscal year actually starts July 1st of the startup year, which is next year. And so because those funds are not always available, as you mentioned, the $270,000 doesn't even come close to covering all of the startup costs. So the actual costs will be spent once the funds start flowing in that first fiscal year, which...
So how am I guaranteed that the funds will come? I did look at some of your index, your appendix, but overall, how do you expect to, your funds, where are they gonna come from, besides loans?
And I'm sorry, I just want to clarify one thing. You made reference to, I believe, $6.6 million. I'm not positive, are you referring to the $6,600 that's in the expenditure column?
Oh, excuse me, you're right.
Thank you.
I think my question, I'm sorry, excuse me, you're right. Is that enough money for a startup? Because technology is very expensive.
We're lucky to have, as Mr. Linzey referenced earlier, a line of credit from Hanmi Bank that should be in your package that will be enough for the cash flow eventualities before the state funding starts to come in. As you, I'm sure, are aware, the state funding is not as early as we would all like it to be. There is a certain amount that comes up front, but the bulk of it comes later in the year, which is why there's a necessity to have a line of credit at all. If all the money came to all of our schools at the beginning of the year, which wouldn't that be great, then there would be no reason to have any kind of line of credit at all.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is the startup. You have a balance of $263,000, and then you have cash flow of $17,818, and you have $586,000. And numbers like that bother me because do we have a reserve? We have an operating reserve required, so that's $277. So I'm concerned about that. Do you want to respond to that cash flow that I'm looking at on page? I can't tell you. It's Appendix A. I call it.
Just to be clear, so charter schools, unlike districts, charter schools do not have a required reserve, but we have put aside at least a 5% reserve every single year. So that is generally larger than would be required for any district of a comparable size. And in addition, we not only cover that reserve, but have surplus on top of that. So your larger question of, is a startup charter school, does it have cash flow challenges? Of course, because it has to buy all the things for day one and have it all ready for the students, yet they start getting paid a little bit later. So absolutely, but that's why we secured the $1.5 million line of credit.
Okay. Appendix F has to do with a letter that was sent by Linzey. And item 1, initial financial support of up to be decided. What does that mean? To be repaid on fair and reasonable terms, to be negotiated.
John, our attorney, John Lemos here, helped me craft that. And so to explain the benefits to the charter school, to Clayton Valley Charter School, for having the CCBOE, where our kids in summer can take courses from them, etc. There's a benefit to the students of Clayton Valley Charter, and I'll let John explain therefore why we're able to give this letter.
Sure. I'm John Lemo, Procopio Courthouse, Savage, public education attorney. So what we're trying to do here is establish all the sources that the school can get of resources, and one of them is combined programs of cooperation that the new school will have with Clayton Valley. Built into Clayton Valley's charter is the Clayton Valley Charter Tech Academy is that we will have some cooperation and buy services from Clayton Valley, at least at the startup phase, for money, and that can be advanced to the new school to the extent it's needed. It's an amount to be determined because at the time that Clayton Valley made that commitment, there was no security from the bank to give a line of credit. So what we're trying to do is collect as many sources, hard sources of cash for the school's cash flow as we possibly could, and kind of touch that bar and went above it, so to speak, with all these commitments that they've got. So that's representation that's consistent with the charitable purpose of Clayton Valley and its vision to support this new school, which is a entirely independent and separate school with no overlapping board members. It's entirely separate and independent.
So even though there are overlapping board members now, you have Richard S. Dorian. He will be quitting Clayton Valley, I take it. He will be on the Clayton Valley board still?
He's not on the Tech Academy board. That's an advisory council, that's all it was.
Okay.
Until they get their own board established, which is going to happen as soon as you hopefully approve us, then they will establish their own board. The advisory council will help select their board, get it established, and then step away. Richard Azadorian staying with Clayton Valley Charter High School, not with the Tech Academy.
Okay. So the advisory also has your wife on it, and I was wondering if that's conflict of interest.
Is it a conflict of interest? No. It's a conflict. There could potentially be a conflict of interest if she was compensated by the school. Is she compensated by the school? No, she's a volunteer.
Okay.
So you can't have an economic conflict of interest if you're a volunteer. In the charter school world, these schools are born by volunteers, and those are the people that build them up and create them. If there was a conflict, we wouldn't have any charter schools. So to answer your question, no, there's no compensation. There's no
Okay. The other question I had was Appendix H, and that has to do with facilities and your Greek Orthodox Church. It's countywide. Where is it located? Is it closer to Clayton Valley Charter School? Is it centrally located so that kids can get to it? Is there transportation?
Yeah, so being a county-wide benefit charter, you can serve kids at multiple sites if the need is there. So if in a year or two there was 500 kids from Pittsburgh, Antioch, Bay Point area, you could establish a site there as well. So one school could have multiple sites. And so the first site we anticipated being the Greek Orthodox Church, which is Kirker Pass, headed towards Pittsburgh, still in Concord, and 5 acres or 6 acres there, and we're working out the details with the church there. They're very gracious and very excited about this possibility. If based on permits and building and all that, it doesn't get done in time, we have other alternative sites, because eventually we think that to serve the 1,200 kids, we need to be at a wide area so that kids from the Pittsburgh Antioch area could get there to the Greek Orthodox Church. That's not that far. They would come to our school right now if we had space, several hundred of them. In Clayton Valley Charter High School, we have 3 major tiers of lottery. One is the kids that would have gone to Clayton Valley get first lottery, and all of them get in, but they're right there in Clayton and Concord. Then the next tier is Mount Diablo Unified. Not all of those students get in, and so almost nobody, depending on the grade level, nobody will get in to our school anymore from Antioch or Pittsburgh, and those are the ones that are pleading with our board to please find a way to get us in your school. We know if we get in your school, our kids will go to college, and those are the letters we get by the dozens. And so we want to try to serve those kids, and then we also get kids from the Walnut Creek area that want to get in and they don't get in. And so eventually we could see, depending on if there's enough kids to put a site, south, put a site north, and hopefully our biggest challenge will be how to get those kids to the community college to take courses, and we know we're going to have to lease buses and things like that. So that's I've run an early college academy charter school before. As a regular school superintendent, we had a dependent charter, so I know this ins and outs of that issue. And then the high-tech high is a separate academy in the school. So we got two great academies to serve kids, but it may be that we have 2, 3, 4 different locations where kids can get an education.
Were there any concentration grants in, I'm just looking to see if you expect to get low-income and foster kids and also ELs?
Yeah.
Are you going to get those supplemental grants in?
Yeah, it's not only our expectation, that's one of the primary purposes. We feel badly that we cannot serve, based on lottery rules, that we cannot serve the kids that are more desperate than anybody to try to get in our school. So this is our board's method of trying to create a high-performing school that will really serve those students that are unable to get in. The majority of those are low-income African-American and Latino students, and those are the ones that are in great numbers not able to get into our school. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to serve those students. Obviously, being a county-wide benefit school, everybody who applies will be on equal footing for that lottery or that selection process. So kids from San Ramon, kids from Pittsburgh, it would be county-wide. There will be an equal opportunity to get into the school.
Madam?
I'm not finished.
I want to help you with an explanation.
Okay, go ahead.
We got recently gifts from education back in October through the Education Workforce Committee and Congress awarded California $43 million for charter schools. And that money's going to be available, I was told just recently, it's going to be grant wise in March. It will be available for July 1. So $43 million for new and quality, the application is quality charter schools. So about $43 million will be available.
We're aware of that.
You're aware of that?
We're aware of that.
Well, I'm aware of, even the state of California is putting high priorities on technology. We had hoped to get a ballot measure on that way back there.
Thank you.
My other question is about serving kids. And I personally don't like the lottery system, and I personally don't like way we admit students. And the ethnic racial balance criteria has never worked for me. So I saw a excellent, I've talked to you about this already, and I have visited many charters throughout the state. And one of the ones that I came back really excited about was San Diego. And it was where the whole community put that together. The business folks decided not to rent the two floors, middle floors. I don't know if it was 7 floors or whatever, but the 2 mills for office space, and they did technology. And one of the things I really liked about that was that it was the whole community putting it together. The other thing that I liked about it was the weighted lottery. So we can really be honest about this lottery, and we can be really honest about, you know, what does ethnic racial balance criteria 16 really mean? I don't find much teeth in it. And so I'm hoping that it becomes a community project. I see where you have development going on in Concord. And I'm just wondering if city councils, just like SPA, you know, they tried to work with the other community members, but it didn't work. So I just tossed that out.